Alright guys, so because this is a much longer chapter, I think I'm going to read like maybe 15 pages of it, I would say, and then I will resume the rest of it on another video because chapter 4 goes up to page 102 and this is 75, so just because of how long it is, and obviously I don't want to run out of storage on my phone while I'm reading this, so I'm going to read up until page 89, and then I'm going to read the remainder of the chapter in the next segment. So, enjoy this segment. What's up, everybody? It's Zach the Celtics guy here, back with another video. Oh, wait, one more time. That's better. What's up, everybody? So, welcome to episode 3, where I read chapter 4, War is the Health of the State. World War I was a boon for U.S. goods and loans. Enormous profits tied to American business interest to a British victory against Germany. That pretty much needs no setup. And again, shout out to my dear friend, Nicholas Blythe, on this website and on Discord and beyond. Shout out to Nicholas in the description. Thank you, bro. Thank you, buddy. So now, I will always shout him out because I will forever thank him for recommending this to me because I love this book. Shout out to Nick. Alright. Righteous Conquest. From the Philippine conquest, U.S. leaders learned that trouble and social unrest at home can be cured by the prescription of foreign war. Americans will unify against a foreign enemy. Yes, that's a distraction. So to distract your population from what's really going on, you need an enemy. You need a scapegoat. That's what this is summed up to. While land regiments remained in the Philippines, Admiral George Dewey was welcomed home on September 29th, 1899. The next day, Dewey rode a carriage up New York City's 5th Avenue to public rejoicing. Oh my god, I literally made 2 videos shitting on New York, and now I just... now I have another reason. Literally responding about the Golden Girls and how Blanche was right in what she was saying, and like Rose is like, well, you might be interested. I've never been to New York. Well, like, what? Oh. It's ridiculous, but wow. Interesting. Rode a carriage through there, 5th Avenue to the public rejoicing. Yes, literally going through the America's biggest corporate tax haven. It was then, and it definitely is now. What else has the leaders learned? That war can be fun for more non-partisans, but behind the flag waver lurked the knowledge that citizens' support for war requires compulsion, continuous and intense propaganda, and the punishment of dissent. Leaders also learned how to reassure certain white men when they got nervous about investing overseas. Between 1897 and 1914, U.S. investments abroad rose from $700 million to $4.5 billion. The U.S. Army was a sure way to protect those investments. Elected in 1912, President Woodrow Wilson affirmed this position. I support the righteous conquest of foreign markets. So, conquesting foreign markets and colonizing them and robbing them of their sovereignty. That's just great to know. The Mexican Revolution of 1910 to 17 would put this policy to the test. Oh, yeah. Yep, this is when we stole some of the land from Mexico. But it was great when we stole it, right? Revolutionaries overthrew the U.S.-friendly dictator Porfirio Diaz, forcing him to flee in 1911. Oh, so because revolutionaries in Mexico overthrew them, what do you think's gonna happen? American financiers who were investing in Mexico more than the Mexicans themselves grew increasingly nervous. In 1913, they urged Wilson to intervene, but he was reluctant. Wow, even Woodrow Wilson, even he was reluctant. I have to constantly remind myself that I am not the servant of those who wish to enhance the value of their Mexican investments. In public, however, Wilson was more reliable. In one of his first military actions, he ordered U.S. warships to attack Veracruz, Mexico, to defend the investments of Standard Oil. While U.S. money flowed overseas, a recession hit the economy at home. Industry seized on the recession as an excuse to cut wages, but more than half of all wage earners have been born abroad. They had their own ideas about economic resistance. The Ludlow Massacre. Oh, Jesus Christ, fucking Lord. Shortly after Wilson took over in 1913, there became one of the most bitter and violent struggles between workers and corporate capital in the history of the country. The strike against the Colorado Fuel and Iron Company, owned by the Rockefeller family. Those fucking criminal scumfuck families. The Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, two of the criminal families of the world that I hate the most. Well, next to the Bushes and the Clintons and the Netanyahus, of course, and definitely the Bidens, too. Angered by a series of mine explosions and the futile conditions of the mining camps where they lived, 11,000 miners went on strike. They set up tent colonies after they were evicted from their company-owned hovels. The largest in Ludlow, Colorado, hosted 1,000 miners and family members. Well, when I was in college, I looked in my textbooks for the story of our labor struggles, of our labor, and they were worked. I looked for the story about the Colorado coal miners strike, and that wasn't there either. Then one day I heard the song folk singer Woody Guthrie recorded in 1946 called The Ludlow Massacre. It's a story about how our government used the military to protect profits at home with the same force they used abroad. In this issue, Class War in Colorado, Max Easton. What about Mexico? John Reed. I was early springtime when the strike was on. They drove us miners out of the doors. Oh my god, it says miners. Oh god, that sounds so wrong. Okay, obviously, in this instance, miners, as in people who work in mines. It was early springtime. They drove us miners out the door. Well, if it was Epstein, they'd be saying, we drove the miners in the doors. Okay, I'm gonna stop. Out. Sorry, I'm so bad, I have to. Out from the houses that the company owned, we moved into tents up at Old Ludlow. I was worried about my children, soldiers guarding the railroad bridges. Every once in a while, a bullet would fly, kick up gravel under my feet, just boom, boom, boom. We were so afraid our children, we were so afraid you would kill our children, we dug us a grave 7 feet deep, carried our young ones and pregnant women inside the cave to sleep. That very night, your soldiers waited until all us miners were asleep. Okay, in this instance, again, miners referring to people in mines who work in mines. You snuck around our little tent town, soaked our tents with your kerosene. You struck a match, and in the blaze that started, you pulled the triggers of your Gatling guns. Boom, 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 boom. I made a run for the children, but the firewall stopped me. 13 children died from your guns. Oh, Jesus. Oh, wow. From the guns? Oh, it's the guns. Okay, maybe then it was the guns. Now, not so much. Well, I'm not talking about the difference. I carried my blanket to a wire fence corner, watched the fire until the blaze died down. I helped some people drag their belongings while your bullets killed us around. I never forgot the look on the faces of the men and women that awful day when they stood around to preach their funerals and lay the corpses of the dead away. I've got a plan. We told the Colorado governor to phone the president. Tell him to call off his National Guard. It's a plea from the miners, the people who work in the mines. But the National Guard belonged to the governor, so he didn't try so very hard. Also, the Colorado governor was a puppet of the feds at that time. Good to know. Our women from Trinidad they hauled some potatoes up to Walsenburg in a little cart. We're gonna make a trade. They sold the potatoes and brought some guns back, and they put a gun in every hand. Yeah, one potato for every gun. The state soldiers jumped us at the wire fence corners. They did not know we had these guns, and as redneck miners mowed down these troopers. You should have seen these poor boys run. We took some Clement and walled that cave up where you killed those 13 children inside. Jesus fucking Christ. Sickening. Fucking sickening. I said, God bless the Miners Workers Union. And then I hung up my head and cried, Woody Guthrie. The Ludlow strike lost, but the threat of class rebellion was still there in the undeterred spirit of working people. On the morning that the bodies were discovered in the tent pit at Ludlow, American warships attacked Veracruz, Mexico, leaving 100 dead, 100 Mexicans dead. Prepares the affair in Mexico. Was an instinctual response of the system for its own survival to create a unity of fighting purpose among a people by internal conflict. The bombardment of Veracruz was a small incident, but in 4 months World War I would begin in Europe. Oh boy, here we go. World War I, a whole empire walking very slowly, dying in front and pushing behind, and another empire walking very slowly back and a few inches, leaving the dead like a million bloody runs. F. Scott Fitzgerald. Tender is the night. War is the health of the state, the radical writer Randall Bourne said. Yeah, it is, aka the military-industrial complex. Indeed, as the nations of Europe went to war in 1914, governments flourished, patriotism bloomed, class struggle was stilled, and young men died in the frightful numbers. In the U.S., not yet in the world, there was a worry about the health of the state. Socialism was growing. Ooh, my favorite. Class conflict was intense. See, this is where they were trying to undermine the socialist revolution. So there was socialism slipping through the cracks here, but these fucking ultra-rich capitalist fucking war pigs were trying to stop the socialist cause and the revolution. The American Socialist Party claimed it was an imperialist war. 100 fucking %. The advanced capitalist countries of Europe were fighting over boundaries, colonies, spheres of influence. They were competing for Alsace-Lorraine, the Balkans, Africa, the Middle East. Social leader Eugene Debs declared, well, I never heard of this guy, but this guy sounded pretty damn good. He might be, he might not have been, not too sure. I'm not a capitalist soldier. I am a proletarian revolutionist. I am opposed to war but one. Every war but one. The worldwide war of the socialist revolution, of the social revolution. Yes! So tight, so my guy. In that way, I am prepared to fight in any way the ruling class may make it necessary, even to the barricades. In May 1915, the Atlantic Monthly published a remarkably perceptive article by W.E.B. Du Bois entitled The American Roots of War. It was a war for empire, he asserted, for which the struggle between Germany and the Allies over Africa was both a symbol and reality. Africa was a prime cause of this terrible overturning of civilization, which we have lived to see. And these words seek to show how in the dark continent are hidden roots, not simply of war today, but in the menace of wars tomorrow. The methods by which the continent was stolen have been contemptible and dishonest beyond expression. Lying treaties, rivers of rum, murders, assassination, mutilation, rape, and torture have marked the progress of Englishmen, German, Frenchmen, and Belgian on the dark continent. Yes, and don't forget the Portuguese either, because Portugal was involved in this too. Mozambique, Sao Tome, what's the name of that one other country? Am I getting the name right? Yeah, Sao Tome and Principe. Yep, they were a Portuguese colony. Cape Verde, Angola, Mozambique, Guinea-Bissau. Oh, you name it. The white working men has been asked to share the spoils of exploiting. I'm not going to use those words. It is no longer. I'll just say it, the shares of exploiting blank and blank. It is no longer simply the merchant prince or the aristocratic monopoly or even the employing class that is exploiting the world. It is a nation, a new democratic nation com- composed of uniting capital and labor. The U.S. fitted that idea of Du Bois. American capitalism needed international rivalry and periodic war. It needed periodic war, but as the time went on, it needed constant war. It needed that to create an artificial community of interest between the rich and the poor. So fucking true. In the midst of a severe depression, President Woodrow Wilson, who has promised that the U.S. would stay neutral in the war, would find a way to serve the needs of the American capital as well as the Allies' imperialism. So, faking your neutrality to appease your puppets. That's great to know. When the war broke out in Europe, President Woodrow Wilson invoked a 1907 treaty that established the right of nations to remain neutral. Floating loans to nation at war is inconsistent with the spirit of neutrality. I completely agree. Well, this is one thing Wilson did correctly, at least as far as I know. In 1915, Wilson and Secretary of State Robert Lansing implemented a plan to help the Allies that was anything but neutral. The reason I'm laughing is because it's like, how could they fake their neutrality? It's like crazy. World War I was a boon for U.S. goods and loans. Again, there we go. War orders from the Allies, mostly England. Oh, of course it was from England, the fucking British Empire. Had simulated the economy. American exports jumped from $2 billion in 1913 to over $5 billion in 1916. The industrialists and political leaders talked of prosperity as if it were classless, but it was the rich who took even more direct charge of the economy. That's why I say tax the motherfuckers. Financier Bernard Baruch headed the War Industries Board. The most powerful of the wartime government agencies, bankers, railroadmen, and industrialists dominated these agencies. The Seed, the Sour, Sour? I don't know, it's in cursive. This cursive. But anyway, though huge quantities of American-made goods, were flowing to England and France. Munitions, that's the word. Why did I say goods? Were flowing to England and France. Bank credits couldn't cover the cost. Treasury Secretary William McAdoo advised Wilson, allow Federal Reserve banks to sign bankers' acceptance from the Allies. They're just like post-dated checks. God, I said post-dated. I sound like I'm from fucking Fargo. Boat and then post-dated. Agreed. As long as my decision remains a secret. Why am I'm fucking these people? It's like I'm reading as if they're from the Dakotas. May 7th, 1915, a German submarine torpedoed the British passenger ship Lusitania en route from New York to England. The ship sank in 18 minutes. 1,198 people died. War passions were inflamed. The enlistment poster exploited the carnage. Irishmen, avenge the Lusitania. The Irish were unpopular. Sorry if I butchered that Irish accent. The public was not told that the ship was armed and carrying tons. Oh my god! I'm gonna stop. All right. Silliness aside, I'm kind of just having fun with this at the same time. The public was not told that the ship was armed and carrying tons of U.S. manufactured war material under a falsified manifest. March 24th, 1916, Germany sank the Sussex. An
unarmed French passenger ship. Wilson protested. Germany replied that it would restrict submarine warfare if the U.S. persuaded the British ship to stop their blockade of food supplies to Germany. And if Wilson ceased defending armed British merchant ships, these ships often carried American passengers. The British refused to break the blockade, and the cat and mouse game continued. The civilian government of Germany asked the military to stop sinking merchant ships. Field Marshal Paul Ludwig, Hans Anton von Benneckdorf, and von Hindenburg, awesome name, shrugged it off. This unrestricted submarine warfare might provoke the U.S. into a war. The U.S. has already taken sides. In any event, we are prepared for the United States. Things cannot be worse than they are now. And then they did. War with Germany. This is where we all know what happened with Germany. We all know. May 9th, 1916, a full year before the U.S. entered the war and more than 2 years before the war ended, British diplomat Sir Mark Sykes, he was psyched, and French negotiator Francois Georges Picot carved up the Middle East. They were fucking with the Middle East even then. Good to know. The Sykes-Picot Agreement secretly portioned out to England and France the oil-bearing lands of the 5-century-old Ottoman Empire. Oh, good God. Certain portions were also alluded to the Italians, Greeks, Russians, Arabs, and fledgling Zionists in an international zone. Oh, this is where the fucking Zionists come in. And yes, the Italians were also fucking bastards. Remember what happened to Ethiopia? Yeah, the Ethiopians will tell you, the Italians were not very nice to them. They were fucking bastards, and butchers, and just bad people. And I'm saying this as a guy with Italian descent. Probably over 50% Italian. Anyway, the Allied diplomats expressed the point carefully. France and Great Britain shall have the priority of right, of enterprise and local loans. Shall have the priority of right. Is that like the priority, like give priority or give right of way? Like on the road, you have to give right of way, give priority. I don't know. In local loans. The Arabs who were led to believe that they would obtain post-war independence were betrayed. Yeah, and they were really betrayed, especially by the fucking Zionists. Go figure. It was Sykes' idea to revive the ancient names Iraq and Syria to refer the new nations to nation-states. Oh God, that didn't age well. It was a right of empire, like naming planets after ancient European gods. The 1919 peace treaty of Versailles essentially codified the Sykes-Picot Agreement and confirmed suspicion that the war was indeed all about empire. Well, of course, Sherlock. No shit, Sherlock Holmes. Of course it had to do with that. Resistance to war. The day after the declaration of war, the Socialist Party USA, yes, my kind of party, fellow socialist, yeah, met in an emergency session in St. Louis and called it a crime against the people of the United States. And then there were these big anti-war rallies and everything. Oh my God, we need more of those today. Especially now. The general public was also firmly against the war and elected many anti-war socialists in 1917 in state and local elections. Stop the war, no war. Oh my God. That was a group. Imagine that. What a time. Voting in socialists in state and local elections. I bet these people were better than the fucking fraud squad who's selling out to the establishment today. Despite the rousing words of Wilson about a war to end all wars and to make the world safe for democracy, Americans did not rush to enlist. 1 million men were needed, but only 73,000 volunteered. Oh, good Lord, oh God, I fucking hate this part. May 17, 1917, Congress passed the Conscription Act. That makes me angry. I fucking hate the conscription. I hate conscription. Conscription is disgusting. It's appalling. It's deplorable. Everything. I fucking hate conscription. Disgusting. A compulsory draft to make sure conscription was not viewed casually by the public. It also passed the, oh my god, the Espionage Act on June 25 to criminalize all but the most innocuous dissent against the war.
No, because by default, that would criminalize it.
Remember the Espionage Act? Remember the Espionage Act? You know, the one that was signed then. Remember that? You remember this? Because I sure do.
My name's Ed Snowden. I'm 29 years old. I work for Booz Allen Hamilton as an infrastructure analyst for NSA in Hawaii.
And with that, that was how I discovered Glenn Greenwald. And with that, that's what they tried to do with people like Julian Assange and Edward Snowden and others that spoke out against the war. That's what they would do.
A propaganda campaign was quickly organized. Tens of thousands of orators drilled to deliver a pro-war speech in 4 minutes, visited 5,000 cities and towns. Opposition to the war is treason. Oh, the war is treason. The war is treason. Ooh, that didn't age well. Because remember that? If you're against the war, it's treason.
Every nation in every region now has a decision to make. Either you are with us or you are with the terrorists.
Same thing. Former President Teddy Roosevelt introduced a new theme to describe war critics in a speech to the Harvard Club. People who oppose the war are just a raft of sexless creatures. That's so rich. They were all sexless creatures? Them? What about the ones who were for the war and engaged in the war? Have you seen Abu Ghraib? Have you seen that one? Have you seen the one like this? Right next to the naked Iraqis? Right next to them, pointing at their cocks? Like, God, talk about sexless creatures. And did you see Donald Rumsfeld? And how warm and fuzzy he must felt inside, and how warm and fuzzy that these people must have felt inside, including Teddy Roosevelt, and how warm and fuzzy they all felt about those men in uniform going in there and everything. In fact, I think this would be a great time for them to come out of the closet. Sheesh. Or at least admit that they're the sexless creatures, but I digress. Zen Formation. 40 years later, former Special Assistant for Latin American Affairs in the Kennedy administration and Kennedy biographer Arthur M. Schlensker Jr. followed his suit, accusing critics of the Cold War showing a feminine fascination with the rude and muscular power of the proletariat. Speaker of the House Champ Clark, a Missouri progressive, denounced the draft. He's a champ, that's for sure. Great name. In the estimation of Missourians, he told the House, there is precious little difference between a conscript and a convict. Thank you. In a private letter, President Wilson wrote a novel defense of the draft. It is in no sense a conscription of the unwilling, but rather a selection from the nation which volunteered en masse. Yeah, because the military should only be about volunteering for your country. The Espionage Act was used to outlaw any anti-war talk that could be interpreted as discouraging enlistment. Exactly, and that's what they did. That's what they did to Edward Snowden. That's what they did to Julian Assange. That's what they did to all these people here and others. And that's what the Ministry of Truth under Joe Biden was. That's what the Patriot Act was. That's what all the other things were. A similar oppressive law was passed after 9/11. I spoke too soon. The Patriot Act, uniting and strengthening America by providing appropriate tools required to intercept and obstruct terrorism act of 2001 gives the FBI power to spy on citizens, monitor library and medical records, and secretly search homes and workplaces. This is information. Well, you know what I say? Fuck you, FBI. You fucking tyrants and badgers. In fact, fuck most police in general. Well, no, not all of them. Maybe like 40% of them. And not fuck all police. I'm not fuck the police. Yeah, just about 40% of them, I'd say. From its title, one would suppose that the Espionage Act was a law about spying. Instead, the U.S. Justice Department secretly empowered private associations to spy on disloyal Americans. Again, what did Obama do with that one? Ooh, yeah. One group, the American Protective League, had 300,000 citizen vigilantes. They opened private mail, broke into homes, finding incriminating publications, all to the APL, reported 3 million cases of disloyalty. The Espionage Act was used to imprison Americans who opposed the war, including Socialist Party chief Eugene Debs. After visiting 3 anti-draft activists in jail, Debs spoke at the anti-war rally across the street. They tell us that we live in a great free republic, that we are free and self-governing people. That is too much even for a joke. Yes, yeah, you're under arrest, Debs. And there you have it. Well, that's pretty much where I wanted to read for right now because like I said, this is a long chapter and this is already a 32-minute video, so I think this is a good place to definitely wrap it up here, but hope you all enjoyed. Hope you enjoyed episode 3. Stay tuned for episode 4, which is going to come out real soon. Episode 4 is going to finish this chapter and finish the remainder of this chapter up until page 102. I'm on page 91 right now. But thank you all for listening, and again, thank you, Nicholas, for recommending this book to me. I will forever be grateful for you being here and recommending this to me. So stay tuned for more stuff on the way. This is Zach, the Celtics guy, saying thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video, including my stream tomorrow night at 7. Look out for it. More stuff on the way. Stay tuned, stay safe, be well, and just remember, reading makes you smarter, especially when you read about the truth. See you all in the next one. Thank you. Be safe, be well. Peace. Have a good night. And keep fighting and keep on rocking. Until next time. Good night and so long.